Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. This guy right here is Evil Mike, or Mike if you prefer. And I got a review for you today. Today we're going to be talking about Tenement, issue number 2 from Image Comics. It's written by Jeff Lemire, art by Andrea Sorrentino, colors by Dave Stewart, and letters by Steve Wan. Sorry, I know I mispronounced those names, but no disrespect. I'm just trying to read them right. Before we get started, please like, comment, and subscribe on this guy's channel. It does help. I am trying to get to 1,000 eventually. That'd be nice. So tell your friends, you know what I'm saying? Hit the bell. I don't have a schedule, so if you want to stay tuned to my reviews, you might want to hit the bell. Alright, so Tenement. Basically, I think it's like 7 different characters, and we're in a hotel building. I'll show you the building right there. That's basically where we're at. At the end of the first issue, one of those, originally I think it was 8, and one of the members died. It was a guy named Felix. He had passed a letter on to this little boy named Isaac that had a key, I think, to his apartment. But that's basically kind of what you need to know at this point. There's not a lot of backstory into the characters. They hardly ever name drop. It's more set up at this point. So we're following Isaac. He's showing that key. This is important. This name at the bottom right of my finger, let's see, Usul maybe is how you pronounce it. I don't know. It's a name that comes up a lot. I'm having a feeling that that's what this is back there. It's like that big eye or whatever, but we'll see in a second. So we are following him. He went to school. Eventually he makes it home to the apartment. He's looking at the key as he passes his Felix door. Remember, he passed away like the night before or whatever. We get I think he's like the janitor of the building. I'm drawing a blank at his name. But he's basically telling the boy that, the world is better off without that Felix guy, that he was probably a jerk. And the kid's like, oh, did you know him? And he's like, nah, I just can read people. And he's like, that guy was a jerk. And then he was the one in the first issue that was complaining about the noise complaints that were coming from Felix's apartment, but Felix, swore that it wasn't him or whatever. We go back to these 2 characters, and again, I'm drawing blanks at the names. So this guy is a drug dealer. This girl is a musician. She had dropped by his place for like a late night fling, also to score some drugs, which he normally doesn't do out of his apartment kind of thing, and he took offense to it, but they end up sleeping together. We get the scene right here where it's like the morning after, and she's basically like, man, I think I made a mistake kind of thing. He's trying to actually like present it to be like a girlfriend-boyfriend type of situation because they slept together, and he's trying to actually talk to her, and she's like, nah, I don't want to do this. This is a mistake. I'll see you later. But before she even leaves out, she's like, hey, you got any more drugs, And he actually looks like he's going to give them to her. I'd be like, man, get the fuck out of here. So we go back to, this is our main character. His name is, one of the main characters. His name is Bob. And I think his wife is Vicky, and she is like pretty much hospitalized, but at home. She's sick with something, and he's having to cover all the bills. He basically calls out to, and we saw that, like late payments and stuff like that on medical stuff and prescriptions and stuff like that. He calls up his brother Jason asking for help, and we get this conversation between the 2 brothers, and we find out a little more about Bob. He's basically not so good of a guy, and he's basically he gambles too much, and his gamble of choice is the tracks, and basically he's asking his brother for help, and his brother's like, look, I can't give you the money because you're just going to go waste it on the tracks. Eventually, like there is something that comes up, and because his brother Bob is basically telling him like, hey, these are for her bills, her prescriptions, stuff like that. Jason's like, hey, I could pay for that just straight away. Let me do that. And we get this kind of touching scene where Bob tries to tell his brother, he's like, nah, man, I'm her husband. I can't let my little brother do that and whatever. Eventually, he does give him the cash, and he's like, man, you need to go home. Don't waste this at the tracks kind of thing. This is the last time I'm giving you money. So we go back with Isaac and then his mom. His mom being a nurse or a doctor, I think a nurse though. But she basically, like, he had a bad day at school, he was sick, he got, she eventually had to go pick him up. That's how he ended up home or whatever, and they're kind of talking about that situation that happened in the first issue, and she chalks it up to that guy dying or whatever. Eventually, during this conversation, that Usla thing comes up. He asks his mom, about that. It's kind of right here, and she's like, no, is that Latin? Did you learn that at school? And he's like, no, I don't know how I know it. And then, she tries going back to the whole, like, hey, I'm sorry you had to go back to school, your tummy was hurting kind of thing. And he starts talking about that he needs to go somewhere, and she's like, nah, we're staying in tonight, you're sick, we don't have to do that. But he's like, nah, I do have to go somewhere, but I don't really want to. Talking in riddles kind of thing, like the apartment's talking to him or whatever. So we get a whole bunch of conjumbled scenes. Throughout this book, there's a motif about darkness and the light and dark and how it consumes the light. And eventually, like, once darkness does consume light, light eventually comes out of the dark. But we see a bunch of different stuff in the scene. And some of the more important things to this dude, he actually does go to the tracks and gambles. Since the number of the book is 7, there's 7 people. That guy put his money on the 7th horse and it ends up winning. They basically, at this point, it's like a whole bunch of conjumbled scenes about what these people are actually doing. They're kind of just going out throughout their daily lives, but in the background there's this like eye thing. It doesn't show us where it is, who's looking at it, or who can even see it. But all of a sudden it activates, and I'll go back one page just to show you that it's there. And there's no mention of who's with it or what it is about or whatever, but you see there's a hand, and so somebody's evidently with it. But kind of like occultist stuff, it looks like. But eventually it looks like this thing activates, and it activates with actually saying that name, Usla, or however you pronounce that. Once that happens, this happens. It's like this, the whole world changes. All the characters start complaining about this loud noise and a like banging type or like a boom. But you can see it's happening in the whole apartment complex, and it's had to be on the top floor because all the lights coming from the top floor kind of thing. So whoever activated that thing, that's where they were. We get this picture here, and this must be the person that's with that Oculus or looking thing. I don't know what it is. Eventually they do show you in different panels that the apartment goes back to normal. Everybody is freaking out at this point. This is where you get a little more like in depth, like who these characters are, because they're in a panic situation. All the power's off, but it's not just that. Everything that's electronically linked to anything is all of a sudden dead. Like the doors are not opening up, even though they don't have electronic locks. But basically they're stuck in the apartment. They don't know what's going on. And everybody's conversing about the noise and everything. We do find out that some of the people, like for instance the janitor or whatever, he is just super negative like the whole time. Anything that comes up, he's like, oh, I knew it, is the landlord, it's the world, it's the... He's just one of those naysayers. He's got nothing but negative stuff to say. Eventually we get Bob, and Bob, like, he notices that his wife woke up, and he's like, Vicky, you need to go back to bed. Of course all her medical stuff probably shut off, and that's what woke her up. But she says that they need to go outside and look at the window, or go to the room and look at the window kind of thing, and look outside. Once they look outside, we get this crazy ass scene right here. I have no idea what's going on. It looks like thrones, statues, pillars, I don't know, kaiju size. We do see that it's a window panel because you can see the flies from the outside. But it looks like the whole world around them has changed with whatever activates. I will say what I think activated was Isaac. He used that key and he went to Felix's apartment because they're about to do the same thing. That's why I'm telling you this now. The book doesn't really test that. That's what I'm guessing at. But eventually this girl right here does pick up the key, and she realizes that it goes to that door 77. Remember the number 7? Shown right here. But they do go through the door, and a couple of them are like, hey, what are you doing? And they decide to like follow her and see what's in there. Right as she gets to the door, she does mention that usl thing, and she doesn't know why she says it. She even says this to everybody, but she sticks the key in, and the next thing we see, and again this is supposed to be some dude's apartment, we get this, and this is the last page of the book, but it's basically saying that she was saying that somehow the building is telling her that this is the way out, this is the exit or whatever, and that's where the issue leaves off. We do get a crazy cool cover image from the 3rd issue, which actually dropped today. It's in my box already. But that is this issue. That's all we got. Man, okay, the 1st issue for me was all build up. It was set up. This one, oh my god, this reminds me of a couple different stories, a couple different movies I can think of, and I'm really excited, especially to see where this goes. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts below where you think it is. There's a movie I can kind of relate, but maybe later, Lady in the Water, M. Night Shyamalan's that movie. It kind of has that feeling to it. It is the people set up in an apartment that are going through like a fairy tale type thing. I want to say it feels like that, but with the horror vibe to it. You know what I'm saying? But that is my review. Please comment down below, like, hit that bell, all that good stuff. I do appreciate everybody that watches my videos, that spends a minute, especially the people that comment, that get, the interaction between us, that kind of thing. Alright guys, I'm going to let you go. I got more reviews coming.